welcome to the latest episode of Out for a Duck, the podcast where the opinions make just about as much sense as a revised DLS target. We are at the business end of the PSL. Finals are later today, and it's been, I would say, a pretty exciting tournament, Yasser.
I totally agree. I think it's towards the back end with what some of the teams have done. I think it's become quite exciting.
So the other day, you were very kind to remind me that at the start of the tournament, when Hyderabad had lost 4 games of the trot, I had said something to you that Gillespie was proving why PCB were right to let him go. But they've done a remarkable. First of all, thank you for reminding me of that.
Yes, there you go.
But they've done a remarkable turnaround. So what's worked for them? How have they been able to manage this?
Look, I mean, I think it's a clear case of, in my view, an underdog team, which was obviously newly put together. And they've got on some sort of a momentum, right? So they started winning. They came through a couple of good games. They won a couple of games. And then I think they got on that massive purple patch of winning 7 games out of 8, I think. And I think each victory sort of fuels some more adrenaline, some more energy, into the team. And the tactics start working. The team starts gelling together much nicely, and I think to be honest, I think when we looked at the squads initially, Hyderabad did have a reasonable squad, and they did have maybe not the massive firepower, but they did have good bowling. Like in general, I think they have Akif, they have Hunain, they have Muhammad Ali, a couple of young players, a couple of senior players coming together, and I think the bowling has done reasonably well for them. In a couple of games, I think the one game that they lost actually against Zalmi during the tournament, I think, where they got bowled out 145. I think they still gave them a good fight despite scoring below par, right? So I think they have come together quite nicely at the right time. The coaching has done well. Strategy's been okay. I think Marnus and Gillespie, I think that they've worked okay-ish together. And that being said, Marnus actually didn't have any captaincy experience prior to coming into this tournament, right? So I think he's got the boys behind him, and he's done well.
Yeah, and it's funny. So if you look at the who are the 2 captains for today's game, both you would say are not. People would generally say they're not T20 players. Marnus has not played T20 for Australia for quite a while.
Correct.
Babar, you have this constant debate whether he should be or shouldn't be, and at least until the start of this tournament, the consensus was that he doesn't have a place in the T20 team. Obviously, he's turned that around very well, and we'll go into more detail on a future episode about that. So the playoffs were, I think, fairly boring, except for the last game, the Hyderabad Islamabad game. And that last over, it goes back to what you said, I think, in the first episode, is that to hell with these slower ones. Just bowl 6 yokers, just bowl fast, bowl straight. And Unair did that. That was his plan. 6 yokers, and it came off. So before we get into sort of seeing what each team needs to do, just a thought on Zalmi. As they came to the tournament, at the start when we looked at the squads, their squad, to me, didn't look great. I thought their bowling was a little bit on the weaker side. And generally, it's actually their batting that has pulled them through. The batsmen have scored a mountain of runs, and the bowlers have then done the job for them. But it's been a remarkable run. They've lost only 1 game. They were this close to being the first team in PSL history to go through the league stage unbeaten. They're coming along really nicely. I think it's been a very consistent performance throughout the tournament for them.
Correct. I think it comes down to the final game, where it's a clear case of a team that has been very consistent throughout. They played very good cricket throughout, and they deserve to be in the final. And the other team, which has just hit a very good patch, and they just peaked at the right time, right? So, and they're flying high on adrenaline. They're flying high on confidence. And they've come through a couple of very close games. They've given, obviously a couple of games where they were very close to winning, but they couldn't. So they've got some the good tight games under their belts, and they've come out on top, right? So and being the first tournament for the franchise, the team has done very well, and I think they should be backing themselves at the moment to get over the line. Let's see.
Yeah. Looking at the final today, what do you think
Yeah.
Hyderabad needs to do today to pull through?
Look, I mean, I think besides the toss, right? Toss, I think is critical anyway. The dew has played a part in most games in Lahore. I think I think more relevant in the second innings beyond overs 12, 13. I think the ball becomes quite wet and it becomes more tricky. So it comes down to who wins the toss. There's a bit of that factor that you have to ignore for the time being, and purely on tactics. Look, I mean, if I look at Zalmi, they obviously have the two top run getters and they have the top wicket taker, right? So you have Makeem and you have Mendes and Babar. If I look at how they've gone about in most of the games, they've gone about in a very methodical way, right? So, and somehow that needs to be disrupted. And that probably comes from Marnus Gillespie trying to tinker with the field, trying to tinker with their setups, disrupt that flow, right? Don't let them be methodical as accumulators, right? So disrupt the flow, try to get maybe one of those too early, and try and have I don't know, I mean, field placement where you get into the batsman's minds, right? A little bit, have a fly slip somewhere, have a mid wicket, short mid wicket or something like that, right? So play with their minds a little bit, right? So let them do things where they ideally wouldn't want to, right? So I think that's something they would do with the batting. Mokeem factor is critical. I think when they're chasing or when they're scoring first, I think Mokeem probably took 3 or 4 wickets in the last game against Hyderabad. So I think that's a middle order um, sort of batting has to counter Mokeem factor in a good way, right? So they have to come out on top against Mokeem. Again, disrupt his lines, find a way to score runs off of him, and give him as few wickets as they can, right? So if they're batting first, you need to score. Um, I would say above 180, somewhere like 180, 190, which is I would imagine in a final quite difficult to chase.
Yeah.
If they're chasing, they need to use the dew factor, reasonably well, and make sure that they keep Zalmi below par, right? So 160, 170.
Yeah, so I agree with the first point you made about that. Their top order has followed a template, which has allowed
Yeah,
Barber and Mendes to play deep.
yeah,
You have to disrupt that. But actually, I disagree with getting funky with field settings or something like that. What
mm,
we saw in the last game in Lahore is that the new ball, there was some assistance. They need Akif and Muhammad Ali right at the start to get those early wickets, to use that movement
good.
of that assistance off the pitch, and
Yeah,
get the likes of Aaron Hardy and their middle order into
early. Yeah,
yeah, get them in at the power play. I think that's going
mm,
to be key. And then the counter Mukim, he's been very successful, but they have somebody in the lineup who has not had the greatest PSL, but he's the ideal person. That's Glenn Maxwell. He had one very good
correct,
innings.
correct.
He's had a low key PSL other than that one inning,
Mm,
but he plays spin very, very well. So you
correct.
get him. Maybe you consider getting him a little early. As
Yeah,
soon as Mukim comes in, you send out Maxwell at the first wicket that falls, and ask him just to disrupt Sufyan K. Just make
yeah,
sure that he cannot settle into any rhythm,
correct. I
and
mean,
sort of.
I'm glad you mentioned Glenn Maxwell. I still remember his double century that he scored against Afghanistan in one of the ODI World Cups, right? So, and he played that innings for most part of the innings. He was playing on one leg against
That's the key. So
very good spin attack, right? So
yeah, so
you're
kaitan
right.
pe
So he
balla
needs to,
maro match se pehle,
yes,
so he plays better on one
correct.
leg rather than two legs.
Yes, yes, yes. I think he needs to. And similarly, I think Saima Yu, right, is another one who hasn't done anything throughout the tournament. I mean, I would think that this is probably a game where I would expect him to do a little bit better than what he's done throughout the tournament, and try and score some early good runs, right? So let's see what he does.
Yeah, and if I sort of look at the flip side, so
Mm,
for Zalmi, the risk that I see is that their middle order hasn't had to do a lot of batting in the first 10 overs.
yeah,
Mendes and Babar have ensured that they've batted deep, they've batted well, and even if one gets out, the other one has carried on till the end, or at least the 50th, 60th over. So the likes of Bracewell, Summer, Aaron Hardy, Iftikhar Ahmed. I don't know if he's even, well, I'm pretty sure he has batted, but he hasn't done anything of note so far. I think that's the risk for them. But what they should do is follow their template. They've had a rhythm whereby Mohammad Haris at the top of the order, even if he hasn't scored a lot of runs, whatever he scored them quick. So he has to get stuck into Mohammad Ali and Akif. Mohammad Ali and Akif are not the most experienced players. Ali has been around in the domestic circuit for a long time, but he's not played a lot of international cricket. If Haris can go in, even if it's a quick fire 15, 20, disrupt the line and length, whatever early movement there is, nullify it, and frazzle them a bit, that then sets the template for the likes of Babar and Mendes to ride it through with Hardy, Bracewell, and Iftikhar coming towards the back end to capitalize the last 5 overs or so. I think, to me, that's going to be key for them. And then if I look at their bowling, I think Naheed Rana coming in. So if I looked at their lineup minus Naheed Rana, I thought their bowling was on the weak side and the batting was really carrying them.
Correct.
Naheed Rana, for whatever reason, against Pakistan, in Pakistan, he
does okay.
He does very, very well, right? When we had the T20 series against Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, he was all over us. The couple of games he's played in PSL, he's been all over us. So he really strengthens that the bowling lineup for them. Him and Basit has done pretty well. Sufyan Rakeem, obviously, we've spoken about him. He's the highest wicket taker. Ifti has been surprisingly very effective. Yeah, so I think, especially with Ma Sadakat and Saim Ayub at the top order for Hyderabad being left-handers, if the opening the bowling, and Saim has not made a lot of runs, so confidence might be a bit low. If the is that in the power play, along with Naheed Rana, can cause that damage. And then I think for Peshawar, they have to nullify Usman Khan. They have to think about how they make sure that he doesn't carry on. He's 4 or 5 now consecutive 50-plus scores. So they need to find a way to nullify him.
You know what, you say that. If I do a analysis for probable Hyderabad's 11, right? So, and I look at that team, and I think Hyderabad's team has come through to the final where they've had more performances from different players throughout the tournament, right? So Mars has done well occasionally, different games. Marnus has had a few good innings here and there, but he's made good contributions throughout. 30 odd here, 35 odd there, anchored right a little bit. Saim, I think, has probably only played 1 or 2 good innings where he's gone above 30 odd, but otherwise it's been below par. You go down the order, you're looking at Usman Khan, who's done reasonably well, especially over the last 5-6 games. Maxwell obviously had a good innings, very good innings, not too long ago, which is very good. Then you have Irfan Khan, Gusal Pereira, again, reasonable contributions here and there. They come down the order, and I think Irfan Khan has a couple of 30s, Gusal Pereira has a couple of 30s, right? So they've contributed, when they've needed to, right? So bowling, Hunain obviously, I think, bowled really well. I think Muhammad Ali, is a player that you pointed out with Zalmi going after him a little bit initially, with Akif as well, I guess, being very inexperienced. Especially Ali and the over he bowled in the qualifier, 19th over he bowled, where he went for like 20 odd runs, 24 odd runs.
22.
I think it remains to be seen how he comes back from it. He almost lost the match for the team, right? So and I think let's see how he comes back, what sort of comeback he makes. It's important for him to hit the good lines early, and if he can get a wicket or 2 early, I think that would obviously give him a bit more of a confidence. Akif is a bowler that I do rate as a potential bowler. I think he's a reasonable find. We just need to work on him a little bit, on his fitness, on his bowling rhythm and his pace a little bit. And Hunain, I think, has done reasonably well, right, under this management, and especially in the qualifier. I think he should be coming in with a lot of confidence. And the fact that he was able to bowl 6 Yorkers, I think, says quite a lot about him, right? So to execute the final over, 6 runs needed, under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress, and to be able to execute in that way, I think it says a lot about him and his character, right? So I personally think if I go through that team, Hyderabad's team, and add in the factor that they are riding on a momentum wave, right? So I personally think that they might just be able to take this one. And also being said, I think Zalmi hasn't had they don't have a very good record in finals, right? So they've been to the final 4 times. They won once, right? So in 2017, and since then, I think they've played 3 more finals, and they lost all 3, right? So I think let's see. They're probably not the best finals team, Zalmi.
True, but I guess the way franchise cricket works, there's probably nobody in the squad,
Mm.
even the backroom staff, who was there last time they were in the final. So I doubt there'll be a lot of scars. Another factor I think that
Yeah,
works in Hyderabad's favor is that Zalmi have not played now for 5 days, 6 days. They won their first
yeah,
playoff game and made it to the final. They've had 4, 5, at least 5 days off, whereas Hyderabad we played 2 days ago. So if that plays a
correct.
factor or not, let's see. I'm going to go with Zalmi.
Which way do you think the factor would go? Uh, uh, Against or
I
in favor?
I think normally it goes against having
Yes,
5 days
yes, I agree.
off.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah. You have a momentum. You're winning games, and 5 days.
You want to play more,
Jitnabi,
right? So if you're winning, you want to play more. You want to go out there and play again, right? So,
exactly.
and similarly, if you have 5 days break, it goes against you. You find you doing training and fitness and whatever, but your mental shift, I think, is the other way, right? So it relaxes a little bit, and
Yeah.
so yeah, good.
You can replicate the intensity in nets. So five
Absolutely, absolutely.
days, and they also
Yeah,
the last game they played was in Karachi. This is in Lahore. Although I
yeah,
looked at the results, their immediate game before that was in Lahore. So my initial thought was
yeah,
maybe it was a long gap since they last played in Lahore, but it's not that long. They
yeah,
played in Lahore a week ago, but 5 days sitting on the bench.
yeah,
Um, I think that this is something that is sort of going off topic a little bit, a disadvantage for the team that finishes within the first or second. That they end up getting whoever wins goes to the final and gets a 5 day gap. So maybe they need to
yeah.
look at playing on the schedule where they play the eliminator first, then the qualifier, and then the second eliminator, then the final. So that you're
Yeah, possibly, yes.
yeah.
Everyone sort of gets to have similar number of days in between, right? So you're right. You're right. I think yes, going
Okay.
forward. So yeah, so key matchups today, and what is your sort of who are you leaning towards in terms of
I'm
the
leaning
winner?
towards the Peshawar. I think just because they have the top 2 run scorers, they have the top wicket taker, and the fact that they've just been very, very strong throughout.
Yeah,
Even games that have gone close, they've found a way
yeah,
through. You talked about that group game against Hyderabad. They have found a
yeah,
way through. If they were going in with Khurram Shahzad and Mohammad Basit, I would have been more on the fence. But with Nahid Rana coming in, I think that's going to be that really strengthens their bowling lineup. In addition to a very strong batting lineup they have,
Did
I'm
Nahid play any games against New Zealand at the moment with the series that they were having? Was he
one or two
playing?
games. He was rested for
Okay,
the first couple of games, and he played 1 or 2 games. So he
okay,
is in sort of, I would say, match ready.
fresh
Yeah.
match ready. Yeah, fine. Okay,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going with Peshawar. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Peshawar is going to pull through. Hence, I'm wearing the Yellowstone shirt. It's not
great.
the hideous kit that they're wearing that they made for this year, but it's yellow nonetheless.
Good. Look, I mean, I'm going for Hyderabad. I think they potentially have slightly more balance in the squad that has come through, and they've had more consistent performances with with the players, through the lineup itself, and a couple of quite significant performances. So I'm going to go with Hyderabad for now. Key matchup for me is middle order versus Makeen. Saim hopefully doing something up front, and death bowling, right? So for likes of Akif, Ali, and Hunain, right? So these are the key sort of factors I'm relying on. I think if they come together, and Maxwell obviously, a key part of that Makeen sort of matchup right in the middle. There's Smart Khan. So I think if I go through that, I think I will probably have Hyderabad winning today.
I'm going to say that the
Mm.
whether Peshawar is batting first or second, their power play is going to determine the match. If they can get through the power play with 1 or 2 of both Barber and Mendes still at the crease,
Mm.
and they ride it out whatever little movement there is in the pitch, I think that's going to determine the match.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Toss is crucial, right? So let's see.
Which I disagree with that. Last game, Islamabad won the toss. They like to chase, and they were not able to. They're not able to come through. So I think toss is going to be less of a factor than it was early in the tournament matches in
Okay.
Lahore.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, the previous match, I don't think Dew
Yeah.
had a big impact.
This is also starting about 30 minutes later, right? So
An hour.
which is about an hour late maybe, right? So it's probably another hour that adds, right? Which is why, in my view, I think due factor becomes slightly more relevant than some of the other games.
Yeah.
You might see that coming in a little bit more than what it was probably for the previous games, right? So um,
Yeah.
a used pitch I hear
Yeah.
as well,
Is it going to
but
be
not
used pitch? Not
used
sure.
pitch, but obviously because they've had so many games in Lahore anyway, right? So I guess it'll be a used pitch, but not for the last. I would say not for last week. I think that
I
for the
think
last game that should be fine.
it's not going to be the same as the last game. Now,
No,
I'm thinking so. Dew might be a factor, but in a final, runs on the board count. So
correct.
if you win the toss, do you bat first or do you field first?
Yeah,
What did you say?
yeah.
Would you bat first or field first if you win the toss?
I would look. I mean, looking at, I would go in bat first, get runs on the board.
I just counter to
If the
what you
team,
said that Dew was going to be a factor.
yes, but if the team is able to score 190 odd, then I think scoring 190 odd due or no due, I think is tricky for a team batting second.
I
Yes.
think runs on the board, yes, in a final, bat first, get as close as 200 as you can, and then leave it to your bowlers.
Leave it to your bowlers. Correct. So, and then try and get a few early wickets if you can, and if you can get either one of Barber or Harris or Kusal, Mendes, right? So one of these guys, I think they will have a good chance of coming through, and that goes back to the point that you were making. The middle order, they haven't had enough time in the middle, right? Because the top order has been in a very good form, right? So they've been scoring so many runs, and I think sometimes you need the middle order to have had a good run, right? So that they're ready when they need it. So yeah, we'll see. So if I'm Hyderabad, or Zalmi, I win the toss. I would try and bat first, get runs on the board. And with Hyderabad, I think I would probably have enough confidence in my bowlers that that we can come through.
All right. I'm going with the top two run getters and the top wicket taker getting the job done in the final.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Chalo, on that note, good point to end the episode. Thank you all for joining in. If you enjoyed the content, please hit a like. If you like the style, please hit a subscribe.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck to the teams.